Thank you for being part of our tribe and for all the work you're doing in coaching people on Live with Intent. We wanted to spend just a few minutes sharing our learnings on frequency of coaching and start with a real life example. One of the people that I coached, who it happens quite often where you get someone who feels like, I'm so ready, I'm so excited, bring it fast, and they're prepared to go through all 12 principles in 12 weeks or even 24 weeks. You know, if you say, well, it typically takes 24 months, they clearly want to do it in at least 12 or at the most 12 because they want to perform. And their intention is good and they commit to, hey, Justin, let's schedule a call every week and let's go. And then we get into it, and what they often discover, and in this person's case, what she discovered is, actually, I need a little bit more time to absorb it and to think about it and to process it and to apply it. And so with her, our frequency went to 2 weeks. And occasionally it would be a third week based on travel or based on something that she had. And what I think is really important is to pay attention to the pace and be aware of, are people needing more time because they're absorbing and applying, or are they needing more time because they're just not getting to it, they're not prioritizing it? There's a big difference there. And while you will have some people who can absorb and apply on a bi-weekly basis, know that our experience is every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks is usually what it takes to really be ready to move on. That's my experience. How about you, Thomas?
Same for me. I mean, sometimes most of the times I've got leaders that when they come in the coaching, they start almost in a surfing mentality of, am I going to get stuff done really quick? And it's almost like they're eager to report, like, oh, I've done this, I've done that, right? And they're just trying to push stuff through. It's like, oh yeah, this weekend I'm going to cram this and I'm going to get all this done. I couldn't do it all week. And then I continually say, yeah, but you know what? Our next coaching segment is in 2 weeks. So don't surf on the surface. Don't try to be quick but go deep. Ensure deep learning. And that's a concept I'd like you to really bring across to your coachees, that we are about deep learning. I mean, we're not studying technical details. We're studying principles that have an effect, that have a consequence for our effectiveness. We're studying principles that have to do with our character. So this is where we need deep learning, deep reflection. So you want to create a study area and a study time and routine where you actually take that in, where that goes deeper. Also for yourself, maybe it's one evening a week where you continually swim deep in the deep, deep sea of looking at this material and going deep in there. So it's not about quick, it's not about speed, right? It's about depth. So many times I feel like I almost have to slow down the coachees and actually help them go deeper. And one thing I found helpful is once in a while you've got the super fast ones. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to do the next 4 principles, in the next 2 weeks because I've got time. And I only give them the next chapter to read and to go deep on. And then sometimes even after the coaching, I just don't go into the next one, but I revisit it until I feel they really internalize it, and that's really happening. I like to compare it with flying, right? I mean, it's not about doing the lessons and checking off the points in the chart, right? You may want to master how to land, right, before you do something else, right? Or you may want to master how to really turn the engine on, how to start right? So there's things that you got to know, and they have to become really basic routine, and you have to become excellent at them. So these principles, as theoretical as they may sound, we want you to master them, and we want your coachees to master them.
And the principle for learning this content is that with people, slow is fast. What does that mean? That means if people will take the time to go deep, they'll actually be faster when it comes to applying what they learn because they'll really understand it.
So as you apply that principle, direction is more important than speed. And I think it's not that simple to balance those two areas of wanting to go slow and deep versus having participants that want to surf and go for the quick fix and go for the speed. So it's not okay to go slow and slower if you have a participant where you see they're not really that deep and they're not that committed to the learning pathway. So then you need to make the call to say, we need to get the routines in, we need to make the checkpoints to make sure that I support you through the learning pathway. So then our job as a coach is to ensure that learning even takes place. So there we actually accelerate. Yeah. And there'll be other coaches that you have where you want to decelerate and ensure that we get from the surfing mode to the deep learning mode.
So in terms of frequency, a couple of ideas you may want to consider are, where possible, I like to start with a live session. And depending on who it is and how well I know them, somewhere between 2 and 4 hours. It's not always possible to do it live, but if I can, to really go deep on that welcoming and understanding and building trust and helping them see the big picture and understanding their goals, take time up there. And from there, usually the rhythm I recommend is every second week to get started. Is that what you do, Thomas?
Yeah, I do it a little bit different. I don't spend like 3 or 4 hours live at the beginning. I've done that once in a while, but typically I set people up with a lot of detail and process and orientation call, right? Mm-hmm. Build the relationship as well, as we always do. However, then I actually do more like phone calls or lunch appointments around the coaching calls.
Okay.
So I've got good experiences with coaching the unit, but then letting it sink in and ensuring that the coachee goes through the blended learning, goes through all the materials, but then follow it up with a lunch appointment, follow it up with a phone call that's not that content related, but then making sure that the path is still ongoing, so that the coachee is ready for the next content coaching session. Yeah. So you'll experiment with different elements. So if the coachee is in the same city, it may be easy to have a coffee visit, to meet for lunch, just to see how they're doing, and to explicitly not have a coaching discussion. You say, hey, it's not a coaching session today, it's just a session to see how you're doing, to help you go through it. But then when I have the coaching hat on, it's different. Then I'm in the zone, and then we have no interruptions. I'm not in a coffee place. I'm not there for lunch. I'm in a room, and we're really coaching. And so experiment with the different settings. The important thing is that you help your coachee go through the learning pathway. You're there really like a Sherpa. You have gone through that pathway before. You have been coached and mentored through it, and now you're being coached and mentored on coaching others. So your job is to actually help them go through that pathway, right? So when they lose momentum or when they have too much momentum, you're there to steer and help them to make sure they actually make it to the finishing line.
One of the things that I've learned, I'm sometimes a pleasing person, so I'm willing to carry people, and I learned that doesn't help them. So the greatest impact is when your coachees, the people you're coaching, when they set the pace and when you go at their speed. Again, getting this balance right between, are they needing more time to go deep, or are they just not prioritizing it and getting to it? And so I think that's, for me, the main message of where highest impact comes from is letting your people that you're coaching, let them set the pace.
Mm-hmm. And what I find really helpful on a technical point is I like to have like a rolling 2 months looking forward calendar. Mm-hmm. So if someone, as I'm coaching participants through the learning pathway, I actually have a piece of paper, or in my CRM system, I've got the next steps for the next 2 months. So I know when are going to be the big milestones for coachings, what are the things that are necessary. So I've got a structure for the next 8 weeks. So the coachee also knows this is what's expected. At times that structure isn't there, so I'm looking, what does the coachee do? But then I'll try to wheel in the coachee again and say, okay, well now let's look at what are the milestones for the next 8 weeks? So in one sentence without comma, what we've experienced is that deep learning beats fast surfing.